the number one thing we need to remember is that transgender people are human beings just like you and just like anyone else. And we are simply trying to be the best version of ourselves. Why wouldn't you want that on everyone?
Yeah. Oh my God. Hi. Welcome to She Comes With Baggage. How are you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Of course. This is a little reunion. I feel like.
Yes.
So we just met recently at the GLAAD Awards, right? And I feel like we were just talking. I think it was an instant connection.
Instant connection.
The minute we all like hurdled up together, and I was like, oh, I want to be with you the whole night. Like,
it was friendship at first sight.
It was. Wait, that's really cute.
Because honestly, it was like we immediately gravitated towards each other and we're like, hey, friend.
Yeah. And then as soon as you would walk away, I was like, oh, come back. I was like, let me not be crazy right now.
No, I love that you did that.
Yeah, no.
Because sometimes I feel like also that I don't want to come off as too strong right away.
Right.
But when I feel that instant connection, I really, and I have gotten more confident.
Okay, good.
At being like, you're my friend now.
I love that. Wait, so you're not from Los Angeles.
No.
You're from...
I'm from Colombia.
Okay, yes.
I was born and raised in Barranquilla, Colombia.
Okay.
In case you're not familiar, that's where Shakira and Sofia Vergara are from.
Okay.
That's why I got the accent.
Little accent,
a little
right.
accent.
Yeah.
Sometimes I can play it off a little more than others, but...
I love that. And so when did you come out to LA then?
Wow. So it's been... it's going to be nine months, probably.
Oh, okay.
By
so
this
like
point.
recent.
I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. 9 years.
Oh,
what am I talking about?
I was like, wait, like this year? Okay. Wow.
No.
Okay. So 9 years.
It's going to be 9 years.
You're a local kind of now.
I feel
point.
very local. I know that it's a tough one for people that moved here. And if you can make it past the year or the 2 years, they say, then you basically could stay longer and battle it out. But for me, it wasn't just coming to LA. It was coming to the U.S.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I was in Florida.
Okay.
But I was raised in Colombia.
Okay.
So I moved to the U.S. when I was a teenager and went to high school, college.
Okay.
And then that's when I decided I wanted to pursue my dreams. And I moved to LA with
I love it.
A suitcase and a dream.
And here you are,
and
9 years 9 months later. No, 9 years. That's amazing. And so whenever you moved to the U.S., was there a huge culture shock, or were you just immediately dove right into it?
It was a little rough, not gonna lie. Even though I was young enough to assimilate pretty quickly, I had a language barrier.
Okay.
Spanish is my first language, so I had to learn while in school.
Okay.
I mean, they literally were like, we don't know what to do with you. And they put me in ESOL classes, but then I immediately got out of them because I've always been a very studious person and I wanted to be in honors.
Okay.
They're like, but you don't speak English.
I love that. Like, very determined.
I told them, I was like, I'm going to do it. And I actually ended up with the second highest grade in my English honors class, freshman year high school. My teacher actually apologized to me at the end of the year. And she said, you know what? I'm glad that you fought for this spot in the class because I didn't want to have you in. I thought you were not going to make it past 2 weeks.
Okay.
And then you ended up being one of my best students.
Yeah. Do you feel like that underestimation from your teachers and your peers was what really drove you? Because it sounds like it. For me, the minute someone tells me you can't do something, I'm like, watch me. I'm like, let's go. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's like getting a good grade. The minute someone tells me you can't do it, I'm like, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it better than anybody else. And I don't even know why, but is that what you felt as well?
100%. My life motto has been to prove not just myself wrong, but other people wrong. Because sometimes we can be our worst enemies.
Oh, absolutely.
And we sometimes put barriers in front of us and we don't feel confident enough. And then you have to tell yourself, like, no, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it well.
Right.
Better than I ever thought I could. And that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
And it helped me get through high school.
Okay.
And pursue, a degree. I have a bachelor's in business administration, minor in marketing.
Yeah.
All while still dreaming about a career in entertainment.
Wow. Okay, that's incredible. I love that, and it's so vastly different, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you ever experienced imposter syndrome, as you mentioned, like having to double guess yourself? And then how did you navigate that?
I think I have chronic imposter syndrome.
Really? Okay.
It's something that I really battle with.
Really? Okay.
All the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's also a reminder that because I have gotten this far in my career, in my life, in my transition, I feel like I've proven myself wrong over and over again. So it's just like that, that little voice in the back of your head that makes you doubt yourself. But then I always love to prove myself wrong.
Yeah,
again,
absolutely.
And again and again.
Well, it's kind of what you said before. Sometimes we are our own biggest enemies.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're the ones that tell ourselves we can't do it before everybody else.
Yeah.
And so as soon as you believe that, that's as soon as the opportunities stop. So I feel like you saying, okay, I know I'm scared and I'm fearful, but I'm going to do it anyways. I feel like that just continues to open up doors for you. Well, what were you like as a kid? Tell me about young you was like, dude.
I feel like it's funny you mentioned that because I feel like I'm kind of full circle going back to who I was before the world tried to break me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I've always been a very adventurous, energetic. I hate to say confident because it sounds like I was cocky or I had some sort of but it was more about I was always ready to tackle things and try to be the best at whatever was thrown at me because I wanted to, again, prove myself that I could do it. And for a long, long time, I lost that confidence. I really did. And I think for a while, I felt broken. I felt like I wasn't good enough. So I feel like I'm going back to that same, wondrous child, exciting, friendly, and wanting to just jump around and have fun and laugh all the time. And that was the kind of kid that I remember being.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And that I feel like I'm bringing back to my life now.
Well, to that point, I feel like that's the energy I felt when we met. And I really feel like that. I feel like the minute I met you, you were glowing. First of all, you were glowing. You had a huge smile on your face. You're beautiful. I was just like, I love you. I literally love you. I don't know. It was like a childlike energy where you and I, we were like dancing a little bit, having a good time. And I think sometimes we forget that we're allowed to be that, right? And also, us as children, that is when we are our most creative selves. Our imagination is big. We dream for everything. And I feel like getting back to that is so important, right? So I love it. I love it. So talk to me about Colombia then, because was that something that you had always aspired to come to the U.S. or how did that work? And, what brought you to the U.S. to begin with?
Of course. So my mom, I come from a family of Colombians. We generations of growing up in Colombia, living in Colombia. My mom happened to be born in Michigan.
Really?
Because my grandpa was going to school. He was getting his doctorate, and he had to go to school there, and then he did his residency in Michigan. So he went to New York first. One of my aunts was born in New York. They already had, I think, 2 kids at that point, and so she was the third. Then they had my mom in Michigan, and then soon after, they moved back to Colombia.
Okay.
So my mom really was raised in Colombia, but she was born in Michigan, so she was already a U.S. citizen.
Okay.
And then years and years later, some of my aunts started migrating to the U.S. One, because some of them were U.S. citizens, and they just wanted to either go to school here or just, have a different life. So years later, after my brothers and I were born, my mom decided, as a single mother of 3, that she wanted a better life for us. And she said, let's go. Really? So we packed our stuff, we sold our house, and we left. And, years later, we were so happy that we were able to reunite with a lot of the family that had migrated here.
Yeah, okay.
And so in a way, I didn't have a choice.
Okay.
So I was a minor, and but I also was very happy to see family again and to be able to spend Christmas and birthdays with them, because for a while it was just us in Colombia.
Okay. Wow. Okay, that's amazing. So you already had kind of, I guess your mom had a foot in the door very early on, and then it just kind of opened the door for you too. Did you always have I know you were saying before as young you, did you ever have these early memories of wanting to be a performer or wanting to be an actress? Is that something, did you always put on shows for your mom?
Oh my God,
what was that like?
I was that one kid that was singing in the shower, performing for my mom and her friends, dancing, acting out little skits. Right. Like I would see a movie and learn quotes and then like do them and like make my family laugh. And I was constantly in this need to not just perform but be creative. Creativity for me has always been a big deal. My mom was an art teacher, like fine arts teacher. Her husband, one of my aunts. There's a lot of artists in my family, but they're more like fine arts artists.
Gotcha.
I was more of a performer, but I still love the arts. And so I always felt the most free when I was creating, when I was performing. Yeah. I sang in the chorus, I show choir. And even though I was also very sporty, I was always an athlete, my outlet for creativity was the arts.
Yeah. So it was always meant to be.
It was always meant to be.
It was written in the stars in a lot of ways. Yeah. I love that. Colombian heritage and tradition is very different to the U.S. What are your favorite traditions that you have from Colombia?
It's a good question because I feel like a lot of times I talk about some of the not so positive things that I grew up with. Yeah. Like, the indoctrination of religion or the macho culture that it's prevalent in countries like Colombia. But then we also have beautiful things like family. Like we're very close to our families. We like to get together and then like have fiestas. And that's one of the things that I love the most about being surrounded by family. And when I go to Florida to see most of my family that lives there, that's what we do. We just get together and we celebrate and we share those moments together. I also love that we're very happy party people in Barranquilla, especially. Barranquilla is a city where we have carnival like Brazil. Yes. We party like no other. We have culture, we have folklore, we have music, we have food. And it's just a really exciting place. You should definitely look into going to Carnival one year. We could do a vlog.
Look, listen, I'll go with you anytime. Just push my arm down. Oh, it'd be so fun. That would be so amazing. We would get into some trouble together. I feel like
a lot of trouble.
Culturally, machismo, is that the right word? Machismo.
Yeah, machismo.
Which is, I guess, similar to what would be a similarity to maybe misogyny. Is that what you would consider it?
Oh. I think so. That's probably the best way to describe it.
Okay. So would you say that was something that you have experienced all of your life, or is that...
Entirely.
Because, American culture also has a very, sometimes can be very misogynistic. The patriarchy is very strong here. So how do you break through that? How do you break through the patriarchy? You're like, I need another hour.
I feel like I said that word so many times the last week, just because it is something that we forget that there's a system that's been built for so many generations, and not just here in the U.S., but in places like Colombia, where we celebrate tradition, but we also glorify very antiquated beliefs of male superiority, female submission, where differences are sometimes shunned upon. And when you're different, like me, growing up in Colombia was very difficult. I remember since the moment I could think that I knew who I was, but at the same time I knew that it wasn't okay to be who I was because people were telling me. Yeah. And it was a constant correction. Don't sit like that. Don't walk like that. Don't smile. Like I literally couldn't do anything. And the thing that people don't understand is that when you are being yourself, you're not doing things on purpose. You're just living by instinct. Like you're instinctually doing these things. That's what I was doing. I wasn't trying to perform femininity. I wasn't performing being a girl. I was simply being myself. Yeah. I wasn't trying to copy. I grew up with two older brothers that are roughhousing and like trying to wrestle with me and trying to play, WWE and stuff. And I was like, I just want to play with my Barbies. Can you just leave me alone? And people thought that I was like, but I was like, my mom's always been also a very sort of the matriarch of our family, very strong, so I've had this very, masculine, and so I'm not, so when people say like, oh, well, you were missing your dad, my dad was, even though it was, divorced household, like I saw my dad all the time.
Okay. Yeah.
He was present in my life. I had my two older brothers. I was put in an all-boy Catholic school in Colombia.
Okay. Wow.
So talk about having a constant indoctrination of masculinity and these, patriarchal beliefs.
Sure. Yeah.
And I still was just being myself, a girl. I was being a girly, cutesy girl. And but they slowly broke me.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't even know that about being put into a school where also I'm assuming that there was probably bullying, or I would assume that people were pushing beliefs, or kids are mean. They can be mean.
Cruel.
Very cruel. Were you able to find at least a community at a younger age, or was that just something that was really, really difficult navigating?
I wouldn't say community. I had a group of like 4 friends.
Okay.
We were probably all queer friends that we kind of gravitated towards each other, kind of like we did.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It was like literally that.
You and I, friends now.
I swear. When I first started school, I will never forget going down these steps to this. It was the Sacred Heart of something. I forgot the full name of it. It's in Spanish, El Sagrado Corazón de Jesús school, and it was a private all-boy Catholic school in Barranquilla, Colombia. And I remember going down the steps on my first day of school, and I looked to the side, and I see this kid, and we just knew.
Yeah.
It was literally like our souls just like saw each other, and we immediately became friends.
Yeah.
And he's an out gay man nowadays, like who is very proud of who he is. And we just became instant friends, and same with my other 3 friends. And I had at least that. But the bullying was relentless. It was a daily dose of violent harassment, bullying, physical, verbal abuse, psychological abuse coming from students, teachers, parents of other students. I felt like I was ganged upon.
Wow. Oh my God. It's like so heartbreaking to me because at a time, especially growing up as children, I mean, they talk all the time, like a lot of times your first bullies are adults a lot of times.
Oh,
and
100%.
I think that, with queer people as well, sometimes your first bullies are people of your family who are adults, or like you said, don't dress like that, don't sit like that, don't be who you are, don't play with those toys, right? We've gendered every single aspect of who everything is, right? And then once you break out of that or whatever, people just panic and they're like, no, you're not supposed to be acting this way or looking this way. But I couldn't even imagine being in an environment where there's no escapism really. And I feel like it sounds like that, from your teachers and also the fellow students. And I would imagine that's why now community is probably so important, but also being able to feel seen and validated is one of the most beautiful things in the world, because it's like you said, you saw each other. From the moment you saw each other, you knew there was a connection. And I feel like that's what everybody wants to feel. Everybody wants to feel seen and validated and seen who they truly are. How did you navigate your mental health during that time?
I think the way I did was deflection.
Okay.
And also trying to excel in other things. People will say that like from bad moments, like they were able to make their best work or write their best book or have their best performance because they were able to go inside of themselves and find those tools of those really terrible moments that happen in their life, whether it's a loss or bullying or this or that. I think being in that position of being a victim of bullying and constant harassment gave me not only this, it broke me for sure, but I also saw it as an opportunity to want to prove them wrong. Yeah. Remember how we talked about that earlier?
It's almost like that resilience is where that began. Every time someone tells you no, you were like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it with excellence.
I think it was that thing that made me feel like I need to be the best student I can be. I need to be the fastest track runner, the fastest swimmer, because I did track, I swam, so for me that was my way of proving everyone like, yeah, you might bully me, but I'm still gonna beat you. I'm still gonna be better than you. Period. Because I know I can. And because it makes me happy. I mean, sports makes me happy, being athletic makes me happy. I used to love just learning things and studying, and so for me that was my outlet. And that's what helped me cope. Yeah. And then I did have also friends outside of school. I had a group of girlfriends. Okay. And they were my support group as well, because they were my escapism after school, where I could find shelter and be able to play Barbies with them and play pretend and play dress up. Yeah. And this was all obviously like hidden, and my family didn't know. Like I was a girl with them. I could be myself with them. Okay. I love that you were able to find somebody that you could truly be yourself with. Yeah. And
can you tell me a little bit about your, I don't know if the word is necessarily coming out story. Is it a coming out story, or is it more of just your self-discovery journey? Where did that begin, and where did you start to question maybe this is something more than it should be, and less deflection and more of maybe this is what I want to start pursuing more in this self-discovery journey that we call life, that is never ending in a way?
I think for me, it was definitely a journey of accepting myself, first of all, which is, you can know who you are, but not necessarily accept yourself. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize. Like, I knew myself since I was 3 years old. Like, I knew I was a girl. Like, I knew it. I felt it, you know. Now, it doesn't mean that I knew that I was a trans person, that I could transition and I could live my life as myself. But as years went by, and I thank God was able to realize that was a possibility, I slowly but surely got closer and closer to the realization that that was my way out of being stuck in this identity that wasn't me. That I was just performing for others. Because that's the only time I have performed anything. It's pretending to be something that I wasn't.
Yeah.
And then years down the road, I came out to my family, came out to some of my friends first, and came out to one of my aunts. I couldn't talk to my mom because she's always been my world, my universe, and I was so scared of disappointing her, and also making her worry more, because I knew she would. My mom's always been a warrior, and like she's always like, I don't want you to get hurt. I don't want you to do. Like, if it was for my mom, she'd keep me in like a little glass jar and like protect me forever.
Oh, that's really sweet.
And I'm like, no, Mom, I gotta live. I gotta travel. I gotta do things.
Yeah.
And so, but I came out, I think while I was in college. Around college time, and then that's when I was able to finally free myself and start my medical, legal, and social transition, because there are 3 different distinct transitions. It's not just one thing, and not every transition will be the same for every trans person. So for me, I felt in my heart that it was important to do all 3 of them. You know, change my name legally, change all my documents, go through hormone replacement therapy, have gender confirmation surgery. That's legal, medical, and then social. Be able to present myself to the world, my friends, family, jobs, anything, as myself. Because what am I supposed to do but be myself?
It sounds like, you've known this is you for your whole life. And I think once you were finally like, I'm ready to just do it, it was like almost in a way like ripping it off the Band-Aid and being like, let's dive right in. Let's just change everything all at once.
Head first.
But how did that feel? Was that a liberating feeling? Was that, was that something where it was almost like a high where you're just like, finally, I can be myself?
It was a high, but it was the scariest thing I've ever done, because everything is riding on this. You understand? Like, you are literally about to go against everything and everyone. You're about to tell the world none of these gender norms, none of these laws that it created by people will apply to you, because you're about to do something that is seen as something for some people crazy, for some people unnatural, anti-godly, sinful. Like, there's so many negatives that people put on transgender people, because I think most people are afraid not only of what they don't know, because if they got educated, then they would realize that it's not bad, but also because people are told that they have to live a certain way and that there is a path for you and there's no other way around it.
Absolutely. And I think not even just within the LGBTQ plus community, but I feel like all people are affected by these confines that we're put in. As soon as you start to put yourself in this box that gets smaller and smaller and smaller, that's when all of us, our mental health is affected, our dreams get diminished. We start to feel like we have to live this life that we were told from day one that we have to live. And then you wake up one day and you're like, I'm not living my life for me anymore, But I think, with the additional aspect of, self-identity and then I'll going against the grain of what everybody has been teaching us from day one is just, it's scary, but it's also, liberating in a sense, right?
A lot of people live in a mental prison that was built by a system that wants to stay completely still, non-changing, not evolving. So when they see people stepping out of that prison and liberating themselves, whether it's because of your gender identity, sexual orientation, just general ideas of what life is and the world is, people don't like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like it. One, because it makes them feel like inadequate because, okay, well, what are you doing? And am I supposed to do that too? Am I supposed to liberate myself?
Yeah.
It can be a little scary.
Yeah.
It's easier when other people can make decisions for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you just have to follow a little path.
Absolutely.
You know? And when you step out of that path and start making a path of your own, it can be difficult. It can be challenging, but it can be so rewarding. And you can meet the most amazing people, and you can find the most amazing things about yourself that you never knew you could do, because now you're limitless.
Yeah.
Now you're free.
Right. I mean, even in America, like with the American dream particularly, you know, we're taught even as women that we have to be within this mental prison in a sense, where we have to do things and be a certain way, put men on pedestals and be a better wife, be a better mother, right?
Yeah.
Was that something that you feel like you also had to make an adjustment to, like when it comes to the American dream?
Oh, absolutely.
And it comes to being a strong, independent, resilient woman. What was that experience like?
Man, it's been a challenge, because I felt at the beginning of my transition that I was so brave and so strong for doing what I was doing. And then I felt like I started falling into another box.
Okay.
I started falling into these binary stereotypes where I had to hyper-feminize myself in order to be validated by others, or else my womanhood wouldn't be real. Wouldn't be real enough for people to take me seriously, to respect me as a woman. And then I started getting anxious about that, because I was like, what am I doing? Am I going back to performing again? Why?
Right.
Why? When I've proved myself that I can be myself and not necessarily follow on this strict path.
Right.
And that's when I found like I could finally just let go of all these inhibitions and all these strict regulations that were keeping me from living my best life. You know, that's when I started finding myself like weight training and getting muscular and strong, because before I couldn't, because, you know, girls don't do that.
Yeah.
Girls can't build muscle because it's not feminine, it's not pretty, and, you know.
Yeah.
Or when I found myself just not necessarily wanting to get dressed up all the time and wear makeup and hair and stuff, and and just like sometimes wear baggy clothes and feel okay with that, and not necessarily feel like I'm fitting into another stereotype of this or that. Like I love labels and I hate labels.
Same. I'm the same.
You know what I mean?
It's one of those things where I say it all the time on this show is labels are great for community building.
Yes.
They're very great for an icebreaker. Hi, I'm this. But the minute that we over-label ourselves, then we kind of put ourselves in these new boxes. We can't explore outside of those boxes.
Thank you.
And then you're like, okay, well, you know, even for me, when I was coming out, I went through my own self-discovery journey of, okay, I grew up in Tennessee. There was no representation at all. And the only representation you heard was that queer people were the worst people possible. Like, there's just everything about them, their existence is wrong, everything. And so that if you find queer people, you should introduce them to the Word of God. And that totally different subject. But I feel like for me at a very young age, I was very confused by that, because I didn't even know it was an option that I could be queer until having my first experience. And then I was like, I was 18 or 19. So I was... or 18, I think. And I was older, and I was like, whoa, my life flipped upside down. As, you know, younger, I was like always the tomboy and always playing with sports. But I think when people started telling me, you have to act this way, you have to dress this way, you have to be this way in order to get the American dream, whether that is a boyfriend or a husband. And I was like, do I have to have that? Do I have to have a husband?
Right.
I don't want that, you know. But I was told that, and I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm different if I don't want that. And I don't know. From a very early age, the labels just didn't work. And then coming out was confusing, because I was like, well, maybe if I tell everyone I'm bisexual, then it will allow everyone to fall into it easier. But now as I'm older, I'm like, I realize that takes space away from the bi community, and that's erasure in itself, which is problematic. And so I've been going through these waves of like unpacking what that means for me for years. I'm 33 now, and I'm just like, I think every single day I'm learning about myself. And as the LGBTQ plus community continues to evolve, and we continue to learn about our own community, I'm like, oh, this fits for me, or this doesn't, you know. I would consider myself to be demisexual and pansexual, or whatever that looks like. And it's just fascinating how I love that our community can at least allow ourselves the conversations to explore ourselves.
It would be hypocritical not to,
that's
because
true.
we're the first ones to
really do it.
Want to have other people accept us and see us for being different but also the same. And then we're sometimes not as gracious with our own community. Because then it's like, wait, you say you were lesbian, so why are you dating this person? Or you say you were this, but now why are you dressing this way? And it's like, I should be allowed to explore, like you said, my identity, my sexuality without feeling so constricted. And I think, again, it's a beautiful thing that we can put labels on things. But I think it's okay to explore outside of those labels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Allow yourself to be free.
What began your activism side? Because I know that you started sharing on social media.
Yeah.
And then it probably started a new love for helping others throughout their transition journey. What was that like, and when did that begin?
Well, it all started because originally when I first started my transition, I learned a lot from other trans women that were putting themselves online. Whether it's making YouTube videos or posting on social media about their transitions and being out loud and proud. And that to me changed my life. If it wasn't for those women out there who were really being so brave, young trans women who I admire so much, because I know how scary it can be to do that. And like, I really do admire like very young trans people, because I wish I transitioned younger. Like any other person, I wish I could have lived my truth since I was 5 years old, But unfortunately I didn't. But it still made me feel so much better about myself when I could relate to these women I was seeing online. And I was like, if they're doing it, I can do it too. And then once I started doing it and I felt so amazing, I was like, it was like finding out the Holy Grail. Like, I need to share this with the world. Like, oh my God. And then I'm learning things about myself that I knew were important to tell others that I had not seen in those videos. And I was like, okay, well, I can't gatekeep this. I need to tell people like that you should do this and you should try this way and da-da-da. And I was all just excited to like show the world, like, look, you can be happy, you can be successful, you can be a daughter and a sister to your family and be trans, and live a happy life without feeling like it can only be done this way.
Right.
Because sometimes we do only see some of the louder voices, are not necessarily the people that you relate to.
Sure.
So I think it is important to have a diverse group of people tell their stories, because everyone's going to find that person that they relate with.
And I think that the minute that you see someone who looks like you, who has more relatability, it's like
taking a huge breath of relief.
Oh, it is. I remember even before coming out, I would find there were other lesbian couples on YouTube. Same thing. And I would binge watch it. It didn't matter what it was. It would be me watching them just hang out in bed, just talking. It would be me watching them play like card games, the most mundane things.
Who's like someone that you still look up to, like that you've seen from like years ago, that's like, they did it for me or she did it for me?
Yeah, I think, there was an early phase of like YouTube lesbians where there was like where they just really shared their relationship and their coming out journeys. And I was always like, well, it's not necessarily me, but I don't know why, but I was binging it. Now I've realized, that is what representation means. That is having someone to kind of help you open the doors for yourself is just so beautiful, and it makes you feel a little less alone. And I think that is the most important thing, because we're all going through this self journey every single day. And I think having someone else to see that's going through that as well is just like that's so empowering. If there's maybe a young girl who's listening in right now who's maybe questioning or maybe feeling a little overwhelmed with their identity journey, what's a piece of advice you would give them?
Whoa. I mean, I could talk for hours about this, but I think the most important thing to remember, especially at a young age, is that you don't have to rush into anything. Take your time, be patient. But always, always remember that your life is yours, and that you don't have to stop living your life to the fullest, fulfill your potential, just because someone else might get upset or might feel uncomfortable, or you might feel like, oh, I'm just imposing on X or Y. No, this is your life, baby girl. Like, you live it, and you live it to the fullest, you know? It's just, it just makes me a little upset to think that there are people that are withholding themselves and not really being able to reach for the stars when they have so much to give, so much potential inside of them, and they're holding back because they don't want to upset anyone, and they just don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. It's like, no, wear the dress, put on the show, like film yourself, take the selfie, post it, like do it, because this is your chance, this is your life, this is you are the main character of your own life, and you should be able to do that while still being sensitive to your own needs and not necessarily feeling like you need to perform for anyone. This is not a performance.
It's so true.
It's simply letting go and just like finally allowing yourself to be, period, and exist in a world even when they tell you that you're not allowed to.
It's beautiful. I think about this a lot too, because I think a lot of times we fear coming out, whatever that looks like. Because you're scared people are going to leave, and you're scared people are not going to accept you, and they're scared that there's going to be an experience of rejection, which is terrifying. You know, I have a very strong fear of abandonment, and that comes from family, which is a whole other hour. But I feel like we all are scared to live our truth sometimes because we're scared it's going to have everyone turn their backs on us. But I also think that the minute that you are truly being as authentic as you can be in any moment, you might lose people. You might. It's the reality of it. But once people leave, it opens space for new people to come in and truly uplift you and honor that authenticity. I think for me, I lost a lot of people in my coming out journey, but I wouldn't be here right now and meeting people. But I wouldn't be meeting people who are just like lighting up the room with truly being themselves. And I feel like I'm grateful for that. It's hard to see it in the moment, and it hurts, but there will be people that come in and truly uplift you for who you really are. So it's beautiful. If there's one thing that you wish people could understand more about what it is to be trans, what would it be?
The number one thing we need to remember is that transgender people are human beings just like you and just like anyone else. And we are simply trying to be the best version of ourselves. Why wouldn't you want that on everyone? Why would you want anyone to not live up to their fullest potential? And that's it. That's it. We're not hurting anyone. We are just simply trying to live our best lives. It shouldn't be a threat. Somehow it is. And I know why. Because again, we are in a way the face of a rebellion against this patriarchal system that's been established for so many years. I mean, we literally have lived through so many civilizations where a lot of times women, minorities are seen as less than, where women have always been subjugated to being inferior. And when you are a trans woman, particularly, because it's the subgroup of trans people that are the most attacked, most victimized, is because we represent everything that people are afraid of. Stepping out of bounds, going against the system. People don't like change, but they need to understand that life is change, that we evolve as people. It's a tough cookie to swallow sometimes because, again, it can be a little scary for some people. But when they meet trans people in real life, when you can connect to another human being and then find out that they're transgender, because that happens to me all the time. I meet friends all the time at the gym, at the grocery store, here and there. People have no clue that I'm trans, and then I tell them and it blows their mind. And they're like, but you're so nice, or you're so relatable, or I really like you, but my religion, my mom says this, or my boyfriend, whatever. And then they you can see their brain working so hard.
Reprogramming.
And then they're like, and they're like, okay, I think I like trans people now.
And I think that sometimes that is why when people say they have these preconceived beliefs around the trans community, have you? My first question is: have you ever met a trans person? Because most times that you know of, and most times no. And my second question is: have you ever had a conversation? Because if you met someone and had a genuine sit-down conversation like this, I promise you will find more things that y'all are alike about than our differences. Because at the end of the day, we all want to love. We all want to be loved. We all want to aspire to these big dreams and take care of our families and be seen and valued. And I feel like the minute that you truly sit down and get to know one another, you're going to realize that we're all human. We're all going through this crazy journey of life just like anyone else. And I think that's immediately, almost always, the most hateful people have said that they've never met someone.
Yeah.
And so to me, I'm like, don't you want to unpack that? Like, don't you as a human want to unpack your own anger? Because where is that stemming from? I think that's for you to decide. You know?
Exactly.
And, a lot of times it just comes down to what you said, them being fearful that everything that they've been taught has been a lie. Yeah. That everything that they've been told to fear has been a lie. And it's easier for them to believe in that fear and that hate than it is for them to challenge themselves and really think outside of the box.
And think for themselves. Yeah. I mean, there are so many systems that have been built to go against people like trans people. One is religion, another one is science, and another one is social and gender norms that are built by men in societies that, again, value patriarchal beliefs more than individualistic beliefs, you know. Absolutely. And so in my journey has been that of trying to debunk all of those different systems and allow people to still have their faith in religion, for example, or still be able to feel like they're in a society that conforms to societal norms, because it's important to have order, right? Like we also don't want chaos. And, but at the same time, we're all human. We make mistakes and we have to correct those mistakes. Yeah. You know, I have this conversation with my mom all the time. She's a devoted Catholic woman. Okay. And my mom loves me. She supports me to the fullest. She's my biggest fan. But at the same time, she struggles. Yeah. Because I know that she loves, you know, her faith. Just as much as she loves me.
And you had mentioned this before, wanting to put you in that glass bubble, right? And protect you.
And protect me. But I'm always reminding my mom that we have to sometimes push a little bit. Yeah. And I say a little bit because I get that this is not going to be a thing that's going to happen overnight. It's going to take years, generations. Yeah. But we got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
And while I'm here on this earth, I'm not going to stay quiet. I'm sorry, but I'm not. And that's what people are trying to do. The U.S. right now is trying to silence queer people back in the closet. Yeah. People are detransitioning in my community. I'm sure losing partnerships, relationships, because they're like, I can't be seen with another woman, or I can't be seen as gay, or I can't be seen as that because I'm afraid of the backlash. Yeah. You know, and they're going back in the closet. Yeah. And it's sad. Yeah, absolutely. And it shouldn't happen. That should not be happening in 2025. It's crazy to me.
It's so I can't wrap my head around it. Really.
Can you imagine yourself like going back in the closet and being like, no, I found God and like, you know, this is how things should be. It's like, no, like, first of all, like the fact that people continue to use God and stuff, like God wouldn't want this. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Well, I think that we talk a lot also about that on this show, that people that are in the LGBTQ plus community and what religion and spirituality means to them. And ultimately, at the end of the day, religion is in place for love. It's meant to be a conduit of compassion and kindness and love and acceptance. That's what every religion across the board, I don't think any religion at all that I'm aware of is teaching you to be hateful. So to me, it's like, well, how do we reevaluate what we really are trying to get from religion? Is it, you know, this lifetime, whether it's this one or the next, of love? Because if that's the case, then you have to put it into practice. Yeah. You have to put it into practice and love each other, because that's where it really begins. And I think a lot of times it starts with self-love, and a lot of times people have to look inward and figure out where that's stemming from. You know, I appreciate you sharing all of this too, because I think, you know, in a lot of ways, to your point, people are having to almost come back out again, because what I used to think was a tolerant or an accepting family or accepting friends are now expressing their views, which is a lot more hateful than I ever realized.
Microaggressions are real. Yeah. And especially from people you know.
Yeah. And I'm almost like, wait, have you always felt this way? And I'm like, let's talk about it, because I didn't realize that you held these beliefs. No, it's a fascinating time that we're living in. And, you know, I want to ask you about your self-love practices and your mental health practices in a time where things can feel really fucking heavy.
Yeah.
How do you take care of yourself at this time?
I work out.
You're like,
I lift weights. I literally
we should work
do.
out together.
No, I'm such a gym rat.
Okay.
Anytime you want, baby.
I'm down.
I will literally break you down and build you up at the gym because I am one of those people, when I go to the gym, I'm all business.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm like, it really gives me so much joy in life to lift weights, to be active.
There's a sexiness to it, a confidence building.
Oh my God. I attribute a lot of my confidence to, and not just because it makes me look a certain way. To be honest, that's just a cherry on top, but it's more about the feeling you get of achieving something that you thought was impossible. Like the first time I squatted like 200 pounds, I was like, what in the world am I doing?
I can do this. I can do this. Isn't that amazing?
It's incredible.
I still can't do that. I'm like 10 pounds.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what I just realized lately, as of this year, I've been trying to find a routine. I've never had that before.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping more. I'm waking up. I'm going to the gym. I'm eating healthy. And I was like, no, it works.
It does.
I feel
know.
good.
It's like,
and I'm like, I have to keep doing it.
Do you mean I have to do this? It really does. But sometimes, like, when you get past the uncomfortable phase of it all, where you're just getting used to it, and you get to the other side, man, I wish people just stick it out for a little longer, because really, once you get there, it's not only addictive in a good way, but it's just a state of absolute, like, just self-love and then it allows you to bring more people into it and not only teach them, but also like share your knowledge with them. And I am all about, just like I like to advocate for my trans community and the queer community, I also love to advocate for fitness.
Okay, yeah.
And how much it can improve your life from the inside out.
I love that. Because you were an athlete growing up, right?
I always played sports.
What sports
and
did
then
you play?
I became a gym rat. I was a swimmer.
Okay, that remember you saying
always
that.
A swimmer. Since I was like 4 years old, my mom put me in swim lessons, and then I was like a fish in the water.
Okay.
I did a little bit of gymnastics, just very briefly, but that allowed me to become a cheerleader.
Okay.
So I did a little bit of that competitively, and I used to tumble. I still can, not as much as I used to. But
I can't even touch my toes. Okay,
no.
So I'm like,
okay, we're gonna
work on it.
I'm gonna schedule. Where's my calendar?
I know I'm gonna be able to walk after we hang out one time. Well, I want to ask you too about your acting career. Honestly,
let's get into it.
I'm amazed. You are an Oscar qualified actress.
Yes.
Another round of applause.
Thank you.
We're doing a round of applause right now.
Thank you.
Tell me about your acting career. I know you had said that you've always loved the idea of being on screen and performing. And tell me about why your love for acting particularly came into place.
Yes. I always like to say acting is just another way of storytelling.
Okay.
And except you get to, do it for a lot of people. And I love being on stage. I love performing. I love dancing and singing and acting and doing all of that. But when it came to creating art through the screen, it really resonated with me because, one, I'm a lover of cinematography, filmmaking, movies, going to the movie theater. I'm an AMC member, like no sponsor, but you know what I mean? Like, I love the experience of the movies.
My first job was a movie theater.
Okay, you better work.
And it was still to this day one of my favorite movies my favorite jobs was the working at the movie theater. I loved it. It was my favorite. Love that. So continue.
Okay, cool. So for a long, long time, I was like, how can I be a part of this?
Yeah.
Whether it's behind the camera or in front of the camera. And then it made sense for me to be in front of the camera because I do love the performing aspect of it as well, and creating characters and storytelling. And I think as a trans person, it's funny that I kind of had to forcibly like perform.
Okay. Yeah.
In order to survive.
Yeah.
So for me, once I was able to let go of that and just do it because I wanted to.
Yeah.
That was even better because then I had all these skills and tools that I learned even without like taking any classes.
Yeah, you're like,
and then I had to
for this my whole life.
Exactly. And then I had to just kind of polish them with going to school and taking classes, acting classes and this and that. And then once I moved to LA, it all kind of started like snowballing from there.
Okay.
Started doing like independent films, web series. I got into SAG-AFTRA.
Yep.
And then once I was a union member, I started going for bigger roles. My first acting role on TV, it was a co-star role on the L Word Generation Q.
Yes.
She's such an iconic show.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's a remake of the original The L Word. And then, yeah, we just kept going for it. And I've been in music videos. I was on a Taylor Swift music video.
You were on NCIS LA?
NCIS LA. I played a villain who got to shoot guns and be this badass Sicario woman. And then I also got to be on a TV show in Colombia, which is so cool because when I moved here, you know, Colombia has always been like my birthplace. You know, it's like I live and die for Colombia, but I never got a chance to work there.
Okay.
You know, and so when I went back as an adult and got to shoot in my hometown of Barranquilla, we shot an entire 8-episode series.
A full circle moment.
Full circle moment that eventually did amazing. We got nominated for a couple of awards in Colombia. I was nominated as Best Actress by ACA, which is the Association of Colombian Actors.
Okay.
That came out of nowhere, and I was like, what?
Wow.
Because it was my first show there. So I had no idea that was going to happen. And then, and then I finally got to do this film, Buscando Alma, which was Oscar qualified last year. And we went through the whole Oscar campaign. We went to London, New York, LA. We did screenings for industry members. We have also been doing the festival circuit. So we've been getting award after award. Every festival we've been.
What does it feel like to finally get to a place where you're like everything... Every hardship, every criticism, every journey, whether it's bullying or having to figure out what truly makes you feel like you, is it one of those moments where you're like, it all came for this because that made you the resilient person that you are, that made you the most amazing, incredible, ambitious woman, that you're literally like able to take all of that and play it into the characters that you've now created.
Yeah, no, it gets me a little emotional because I've been fighting so much just to be myself, you know, just to live as myself. You know, my biggest dream was just to be me. That was check. Okay, I'm done. Now what do I do with my life, you know? And then I was like, why not? Why not give myself a chance? Yeah. You know what I mean?
I literally have chills. Do you see me right now? I love you so much.
No, thank you for allowing me to express myself so, you know, personally, because we sacrifice so much, especially as queer people. Like we do so much for others because we spend a big part of our lives trying to appease this sort of conflict that exists, you know, whether it's because our parents are scared of our safety or because people don't want to see us succeed because of who we are, etc. After all of that, to be able to, you know, pursue your dreams, to be here with you and do this, I mean, congratulations. Like, this is amazing. Like, this is a dream. You're living the dream. You are the dream, you know, and I want to, with my work, continue to inspire other people, and being able to get to this point where I'm, you know, in this Oscar qualified film and I'm part of this show, The Q Agenda, where we get to invite guests and explore all these topics. It's really a dream come true. And I feel extremely grateful, and I want to keep fighting. I have so much more to do. I want to keep doing so much more. I want to continue to build other people up around me. I mean, I'm the kind of person that, like, if I could and if I had the means and the resources, I would be like, y'all come with me. Like, we're going to do this together. And I want that. I want that.
I think about this all the time, where I always think about if in 80 years' time I look back and I did nothing with the platform that I was, with the privilege that I was able to have, then what was the point?
Exactly.
What was the point of everything? For me, life is meant about love. And a lot of times love means taking care of each other and being there, whatever that looks like for your community. And I can't expect people to love me if I don't also show up with love in my heart for others. And I feel like there's so many incredible stories like yours where it's just a continuous explanation and definition of what fighting and continuing to fight and resilience is. And I applaud you for you just truly showing up as you. I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And then not only just you showing up as you, but you being the actual light in the room. Like not that was like what sniffles. I was like, actually.
I need a tissue.
Like, yeah, that's exactly what. Let me grab one for you. Here you go.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
I think, that's why I was drawn to you, and I feel like that is the impact you leave on so many other people. And it's amazing. And I think something too with acting, a lot of people don't realize that when you're acting, you're not just teaching yourself to portray an emotion. You are actually, a part of you is in every single character. And so for you to be able to play all these different roles, where it's the badass woman or the badass kid with like the guns, you're able to put yourself in every single character. And like that emotion is award winning very clearly. And I think it's just beautiful. So I appreciate you.
I got to play a nurse on Buscando Alma.
Yeah. Okay. And, I watched some of the clips and I was like, oh my God, you're just amazing.
It was cool because like in that movie in particular, which is the Oscar qualified film, the director really wanted to make sure that the main character that I play, Christina, who is a trans woman as well, because a lot of the other roles I've done on TV have not been trans, wasn't about the stereotypes or the same sort of story that we see of trans people in media. We wanted to just simply allow this character to exist in a world where she is simply living her life. She's going to work. She's a nurse. She has a boyfriend. She's kind of just living her ordinary life while still struggling with the fact that she lost her mother at a young age because they got separated during their migration to the U.S. And she's in search of her mom, who doesn't even know that she's trans, that didn't get to see her grow up and become the woman that she is. It's a beautiful story of acceptance, of love, of reuniting with family, and especially in a world and the state of the country the way it is. Those two topics right there, immigration, immigrants, and trans issues, are two of the most heated right now.
Right.
So we were so excited that we could have the movie done and ready to be put out at the time where we needed it the most.
Right. Well, I think, with media particularly, representation is what's helping people open their minds, right? Whether not every single family has an LGBTQ plus person that they know of. Not every single family or person has access to learning about these things from a personal standpoint. So for them to see it in movies, books, music, it gives them the opportunity to actually have a little bit of exposure and to challenge their thoughts, right? And so now, over the last 10 years, that's changed so much in media. Do you think that that's something you want to continue seeing as being more and more often, where there are trans characters where it's being played by a trans person? Or how does that look like for you when it comes to representation in media? Where do you want to see that to go?
Thank you for that question. That's actually one of the things that I want to continue to push the most, is that it's not about just filling a box and trying to say like, okay, we got the trans person in the cast, like we're good. But it's the correct sort of real media representation that we need. We don't want to go back to just stereotyping and going for that, just basic, boring story that we've all seen, that it's played out, that it's actually sometimes disrespectful. We want to remind people that, again, trans people, queer people, we're all just living our lives once again, and we're brothers, we're sisters, we're lovers, we're husbands, we're wives, we're nurses, we're sicarios sometimes. I mean, what can I say? But yes, that is definitely my mission as an actor. And I keep pushing, and hopefully I'm allowed to take on more roles that are like that.
Sure.
And whether I'm playing a trans role or not a trans role, I want to be able to showcase that we can do it all.
Yeah.
As long as you work hard and you put your best foot forward and you have good intentions, you should be able to not be limited by a label.
Yeah, and I think also with the representation, I'm very grateful that there's more and more and more of it. I love it. We can't let that stop. It has to be a continuous snowball. But I know for the longest time, the LGBTQ plus community was always shown from a lens of trauma. And they're always shown from a lens of hardship, which I do think every single person, queer or not, trans or not, hetero or not, whatever that might be, every human comes from some form of hardship, every single person.
Yeah.
But it's interesting how, particularly in media, the LGBTQ plus community is always shown mainly as a form of hardship or trauma. And I do think that that is hopefully the direction that we change, where we're actually shown in a light of joy, because I actually think the LGBTQ plus community is the first thing that most people notice. It's not the trauma. Yeah. It's the fact that they're truly showing up authentically. It's not the hardship, which is always going to be there, but it's the fact that there is hardship and they're saying, I don't care. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not stopping. This is not going to stop me. Yeah. I think that is what I want to see also in media, is like continuously showing up and showing queer people and trans people as being the resilient people that they are. I think that that's what I'm hoping for, and I feel like that's what you're showing in all of your characters.
Oh no,
as well.
we're doing it, and we're gonna keep doing it. And the beauty of being an actor is that you should be able to play all these different facets of life. Yep. Sometimes there's trauma, but sometimes there's extreme happiness and success, and it's cool to be able to show all of that, because again, it allows people to see that we all have intersectionality in our lives, that we're not just queer people, we're not just trans people, we're not just this one label, that we have so much more to offer. And when you really, it really is deconstructing this idea that people have in their heads and sort of putting it back together and allowing people to see us as just like them, and human beings that have emotions, that love. Sometimes they cry, but sometimes they also are the CEO of a business. Yeah. Or they're the, the host of a podcast. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there's so many stories out there that haven't been told. Yeah. And I think we need to keep pushing for that. Yeah. That is 100% my number one mission in life, and as a career performer, like it's what I want to continue to do. And I'm starting to write my own script.
Oh, exciting!
Because I think it's really tough out here, in Hollywood to audition and get a part. Things are not happening the way it used to happen. Like things are very slow. We've gone through a lot of changes have happened in Hollywood and in this industry. So one of the things that I've learned from some of my friends, I just interviewed one of my really, really good friends, Rain Valdez, who's an Emmy-nominated actor, director, producer, who started her own production company. I've been a part of some of her projects, and she was able to create, because she said, you know what, I'm not going to just sit around and wait for someone to give me a part. I'm going to write my own part, because I have so much to tell. Yeah.
At the GLAAD Media Awards where we met, there was a quote that, I forget who said it, but they said, if you don't see your story being represented, then it's up to you to create it. Yeah. And I think that is something that resonated with me, where I'm like, period. You know what? Absolutely, because we can wait forever. You never know. And if we're all waiting, then it's never going to happen. If we're all waiting across the board, then the progress won't continue. So I feel like it is all up to each one of us to continue pushing it in whichever way we can. And I don't know. I applaud you for that. I just love you so much. I really do.
Same back to you. Look at you. Like, I really fully respect everything you're doing. All the content you're creating, the messaging, and you're leading these. This is yours.
Thank you.
And that's something that no one can take away from you. You're gonna continue to build yourself up, because you build yourself and that confidence in order to do so. And that radiates and it attracts.
Thank you.
And I think that's why we immediately attracted to each other, because I feel like we both have this fire in us to want to like.
Oh yeah. As soon as I kept seeing all the headline news of silencing, I'm like, bet I'm gonna make a platform where I only uplift the voices that are being silenced, because I think that it's really gonna have to come down to each one of us to really protect each other. And so, no, I appreciate you. I love you so much.
I love you too. Thank you.
Yeah. At the end of each episode, I go into these funsy questions, just like random, because we get deep on the show, So I'm like, let's end it with something a little lighter.
Bring it on.
Okay. All right. One, what is your love language? Okay.
I think my love language is honesty. being 100% honest with each other.
Yeah.
Whoever that person is, those people are. When you can look at someone in the eye and just strip yourself of your fears and just be confident with that person that they got you. Like I'm about to throw myself backwards, and I'm fully expecting you to like grab me and like hold on to me and like
I got you. I can do that.
You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So that to me shows me that you got me, I got you, and that's love right there for me.
I love that. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, for me, it's physical touch with like just this little moment right here. I love that. And then like just sitting here and talking and getting to know each other. You know, I think as we get older, for me personally, it's really difficult to make friends. Like, I don't know why. It's hard.
It is. A journey.
It is. And I think
it's a journey.
Also because in a lot of times I never was in environments where I could get beneath the surface. And I think surface level conversation, I'm like, we can talk about the weather with anyone, but like, who are you? I want to know who you are. What makes you fall in love with life? What makes you dream about things at night? What keeps you up at night?
Exactly.
What is the baggage? Plug. What is the baggage that you carry? That's what I want to know about people. And I feel like sometimes it's really hard to meet people who are open to matching that energy. So I just love that. But okay, one more question.
Okay.
Funsy question. When meeting someone,
okay,
you just met someone.
Okay.
Instead of going in for a handshake, you had to do a dance move. How would you greet them? Because I'm thinking like you do like a robot, like right, and then I'm like, you know what I mean?
No, 100%. And I think I've done this actually. So it's so funny that you mentioned this. I always resort back to giving them a little shake.
Okay.
A little something like, okay, let's go. Bam, bam.
Okay.
You know, like a little something.
I like that.
And I feel like if I can feel comfortable enough to do that in front of you and not feel embarrassed.
Did you do that and then be like, why did I just do that? Or did you do it like fully on purpose?
I'll do it in the moment, but then sometimes I'll be like, maybe, I mean, I don't want to scare people either. I mean, like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be like, man, this girl's too much. Like, get her some help.
That is so funny.
I've gotten to a point in my life where I want to just be myself. And if my type of self, it's too much for someone, and then that's okay. And I'm learning to accept the fact that I'm not for everyone. Mm-hmm. And you're not for everyone, and we're all not for everyone. But as long as you're being genuine and yourself, and you're being kind of like in the moment happy and allowing that person to see the true you, when you meet people, when you put yourself out there in the world, you have to commit. And what I mean by that is that once you go, hey, what's up? Like, my name is Carolina. Like, so nice to meet you. Don't retract and immediately think like, oh no, they're not gonna like me, or I'm just small talk, I don't know what to do. It's like, just commit. You already open yourself up. Be yourself. Treat this person with respect, but also they're just another person. It's okay to just be silly and like shake or do the robot, whatever it is, and then most likely they will be cool with you because they're getting to see you for you, and then they're like, okay, they're a little weird, but I like them.
Well, also because most likely they're thinking the same thing. Like, should I shy away? Do I dim my light?
Exactly.
And so you're actually both thinking it. And so the minute you're like, then they might like,
exactly.
You know?
But if you commit to the move and
you're like, next thing you know, you're just dancing.
Then all of a sudden we're just like having a little dance party, and now we're best friends.
And that's what happened here. That's what happened here. Oh my God. Well, I'm obsessed with you. I love you so much. And I can't wait to do more of this and have movie nights.
Anytime.
Board game nights. We should do stuff.
Oh, 100%.
We should do things in LA.
We should, because we live in the same city.
We live close together.
We are
neighbors.
Supposed to, because
that's what people do.
That's what people do. That's what adults do, right?
I think so. Where they can find you, where they can follow your journey, where they can send you a DM and get to know you better.
You can definitely get in touch with me through Instagram. I think that's probably my main platform when it comes to social media. And then I got my link where it'll take you to our Buscando Alma film .com website, where you can get to see more about that latest film that we've been promoting. And
we'll slide into those DMs. We'll say hi.
DMs,
we'll start following you on Instagram. And then whenever you do make a TikTok, we'll follow you there too. How about that?
100%. It'll happen eventually. Yeah. I will cave and I will start my TikTok.
We're about to make a TikTok right now.
Okay.
Please. Thank you again. Thank you for coming on
here.
Thank
you for having me. This has been amazing.
This is so fun. Oh my gosh. Oh my God. And that's a wrap on this episode of She Comes With Baggage. If you love this conversation, please make sure to follow She Comes With Baggage on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube for more content and behind-the-scenes moments. And if you're tuning in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other audio platform, please don't forget to leave a review. I love hearing from you, and your support helps keep these conversations going. And just remember, if you are carrying any baggage, you're not alone, and we're all more alike than you might think. See you soon.